Hi, everybody. We're back. We had technical difficulties, of course, but we're here tonight with author and creator of the College Life series, Jessica Vample. Thank you so much for joining us. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, how are you?
I am awesome. I am awesome. Thank you so much again for joining us tonight
Of course.
to share about your books and your wealth of knowledge and your love of writing.
Of course. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
So tell us about this College Life series.
So this series, it's called the College Life series, and it's a 9-book fiction series that follows the lives of 5 young Black women and follows their journey as they go through their 4 years of college. The book, it starts with them coming into their very first semester of their freshman year in college, and the series ends kind of like 5 years after they graduate. So it's 9 books in total. It's more character driven than it is plot driven. I like to focus on the characters and their development and their growth, because the way I see it is a plot is going to happen anyway. Things are going to happen to the characters anyway. So why not get the reader invested in the characters themselves and follow them on their journey through their life, both on and off campus. These books have quite a bit of drama in them. Each book, the characters go through a series of events that start to change them and to shape them into the adults that they are becoming throughout the years. So like I said, it's a lot of drama in the books, but I like to think that it's a good balance of drama and a lot of lighthearted moments. College is a very interesting time. You know, you do go through some of the most changes that you're, coming out of teenage years and going into your early adult years. So you go through a lot of changes, and in that case, you go through a lot of different experiences, but you also have fun as well. At least I did in college. But so yeah, it's a good mixture of drama and humor in the books. And I like to think of the series as realistic. Even though it's fiction, a lot of the things that the characters deal with, both their personal lives and on campus, are things that students of that age group could possibly deal with, depending on who they are. So I've been writing this series since I was a senior in high school. I was about 17, getting ready to graduate. And I just been writing it ever since. And I published the first book December 2015. So years later, I decided to publish the series, and I have 8 books out right now. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I will say, since I read the series up until, where you are now, it is fantastic and it is very realistic. It's scary how realistic it is. And
Thank you.
yes, and it just gives you kind of a flashback of certain people in
Yeah.
college. You can
Yes.
relate to those people. And I like the way that it shows the evolution of students and what they go through, especially when they're starting their freshman year or when they're in their sophomore year, because
Mm-hmm.
those are some very, very difficult times. A lot of times they don't know people, or
Right.
maybe younger, maybe they haven't been used to going out to parties and things of that nature.
Right.
Right. Or even the clothing. You'll find that some students, once they start college, when they come home for Christmas break or that next year, they are dressed completely different than when they first got into school. So, I think it was wonderful the way that you touched on that
Thank
and made
you.
it so personable for someone to be able to actually laugh with them, cry with them, joke with
Yes.
them, things of that nature. And one thing I noticed when you're talking about college students, there are not many books of this nature on the market. Why do you think that is?
I think for the most part, especially things I've been actually hearing from readers when I do events and things like that. A lot of the books nowadays, they jump from YA, which is like high school, and then it kind of goes to adult. You don't have that in between, which is a very important time in a young adult's life, from 17, 18 through early 20s. It's a lot of things that happen in a life, in a person's life at that age. You're just learning yourself. You're trying to find yourself. You're getting out into the world, being an adult, really an adult on your own for the first time. And I just don't think that there are a lot of, at least not that I've seen, and based on what I've heard, it's not really too much out there, but I don't think a lot of people touch on that subject. Like I said, it goes from YA and then it just jumps to adult, contemporary things like that. So as far as I know, I'm probably one of few, especially authors of color, who are touching on the college subject and writing for so many characters. I like to think that it's realistic. I'm hearing that it's realistic, the series, so I'm happy about that.
I'm on book 4, and I absolutely adore this series. We have somebody who's on the live who said that they're on book 4 and they love the series.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. And the funny thing is, I get asked all the time about this series: is it based on my college experience? Is it based on people I know? And no, it's not. It's my imagination. It's my imagination, and just taking from things that can happen in real life. These things didn't happen to me. Like it could be a couple things that I've said, but it's not based on my life. I mean, I'll tell anybody in a minute, my life in college was not this eventful. It really wasn't. So be lucky that this series isn't about me.
The series is very eventful, down to food fights from the first book. I mean, so realistic. And what's so funny is that most people don't even think about those things that happen in college until years later. Yeah. Or they read your book or hear an excerpt or somebody's talking about something, and then everything comes rushing back. Yes. You remember your freshman year, but mostly I think most people remember their sophomore and junior years more so than the freshman year, because that freshman year is like, this is the year. It could be make it or break it, or they were miserable or they were happy. That's the year that you're changing, but you really don't remember too much about it. It's the next year or the junior year. That's when you really start finding yourself. Yeah, and that's amazing. So for you to be a woman of color and an author who wrote all these amazing books in a series of 5 years, and it's not even December yet, so 4 and 3/4 years.
How does
it feel?
It really feels amazing. I mean, again, when I started this series, I really started it just for myself. I was always a lover of writing. Like I always just wrote just for myself. It wasn't for anybody to read. And I started this series because I was going to college, being a young teenager, woman of color, going to college for the first time. And I didn't have anything that I could read that I could identify with, So, and I love to read as well. So I decided to start writing it. And I wrote these books through the end of high school, through my college years and on. And it was really only for myself, because I just love these characters and I love these books so much. But when I published them and I realized that people were loving them as much as I did, like it's really an amazing feeling. It's like I can't really describe it, because it's so awesome. And when I hear people tell me, oh my God, I love this, and they start talking about the characters like they're real people, and they get mad with the characters and mad at the characters, and it's just, I love it.
They are real people.
Yes, they are real people.
I mean, they are a mess. I'll just say that, a mess.
Yes, they are. I agree. A hot mess.
Yeah. So you're an entrepreneur as well. So you actually published these books. So tell us about that. Tell us about that process.
Well, I am self-published. I've been self-published since the first book, and as far as I can see, I'll continue with self-publishing. It is basically a business. I'm investing in myself. I'm investing in my books, and I put out all the money and get all the money back, depending on how they're selling. The process with self-publishing, the first thing I did, it takes a lot of research. There's so much information out there regarding self-publishing, and there's a lot of opportunity for people to take advantage. There's a lot of opportunity for you to spend money unnecessarily if you don't know what to do or what to look for. So I'm not the type of person that I don't want to spend money I don't have to spend. Not that I won't invest in it, but I don't want to have to spend unnecessary money is what I really want to say. So I did a lot of research first. I researched my cover designers, I researched the editors, and I did a lot of research on different presses, like vanity presses and things like that, and decided those weren't for me. And I decided I was going to learn myself how to publish directly to the sites rather than go through these vanity publishers that charge you $2,000, $3,000 to do the same thing that you can do yourself. So before I even hit publish, I did a lot of research first. And it was a lot of trial and error. My first book, when I first released it on Kindle, I made an error that I wasn't aware of, because I have, you have to know these different sites and what it takes to publish the books on their especially the e-readers, because they have different criteria for different sites. And I didn't know that. So when I first released my first book, somebody inboxed me and said, "Hey, I'm loving it so far, but there are no section breaks." I said, "What you mean there are no section breaks?" I thought it was section break. And I was I was so upset because I pride myself in putting out the best product that I can. And when I realized that there was an error, I was so mad at myself. Like, but it was trial and error. And I learned from that. I Googled it and I tested it and I redid it again. And then now I know what I'm doing. But if you want to do self-publishing, it's a lot of trial and error. But for me, it's definitely worth it. I have control over my books. I have control over my voice and my characters' voices. And that's so important to me. That's so important to me. And I'm not saying I would never take, if I offered a big deal, but it has to be some stipulations because you're not just going to take my rights. These characters have been with me for too long, way too long. I'm way too invested in their lives. So no. But yeah, I definitely like self-publishing. It's challenging at times. And if you're going to get into it, you have to get into it because you love to write and you have to love what you do because success doesn't happen overnight. It definitely doesn't. But for me, it's definitely worth it.
Okay, so that's interesting. So let's back up. You talked about you started writing in high school.
Yes.
And that's amazing. And, students should basically take heed to this because writing is something that you need forever.
Yes.
Writing is something that you're going to need through every step of your college, after college. Comprehension and writing are just so important.
Yes.
And for you to start writing in high school, and I can relate to that because I'm a writer by trade. And so I don't know what I would do without writing. I breathe writing. So,
yes, it's a part of you. Yes.
Exactly. But students are very disconnected. I find a lot of students are very disconnected when it comes to writing. They just don't feel comfortable, or they write creatively. They just don't know how to channel that energy. They don't know how to, when they get in school, they don't know how to select the classes that will actually help them move forward and develop their creative writing skills. And so what do you say to that? What kind of advice would you give to those students?
Well, for me, when I was I've been out of school. I'm not ashamed of my age. I'm 39. I'm not ashamed of my. I'm 39 years old. Okay, so I've been out of school for a while. But I remember when I was in school, there wasn't much curriculum then for creative writing. I think in my 4 years of high school, I took one creative writing class. I mean, aside from the regular English classes, of course. But for me, creative writing was a lot different than regular English. Yes, regular English, you need it. You have to write an email. I work at a regular job and I still have to write an email. So English in writing is, like you said, is necessary through all parts of your life. But the creative side, creative writing is important because it helps to bring out, I would say, how do I want to put this? For those students who love creative writing and feel like that it's not something that's worth doing or it's not something that's important, the creative writing classes will help bring that out of them. Creative writing is something that I excelled in because it allowed me to channel everything that I was feeling and put it on paper. And yeah, I was graded on it. I mean, yeah, it was great to get the A's on that. It just solidified the fact that I was actually, I guess, kind of good at it, even though I didn't think so at the time. But creative writing is so important because it allows a person to express themselves. And sometimes that's the only way you can express yourself. For me, I'm not a talkative person. I'm not a person that sits down and wants to talk about my feelings. I'd rather write about it. When I'm sad, I want to write a poem. When I'm mad, I want to write a poem. When I'm happy, I want to write. And that's just something I think that our teenagers, especially our teenagers, colleges, that they need right now, because a lot of times that's the only way they're going to get out what they're feeling. And I feel like, for me, again, if you know what you want, if you know that creative writing and writing is something that you want to do, definitely look into, when you go to college, the courses and things like that to help strengthen that. But for me, I didn't know that then. I majored in a whole different subject when I went to college because I knew writing was a part of me. It was something I always loved to do, but I didn't think of it as a career. Like I said, I didn't think I was any good at it. I just thought that it was just a hobby of mine. So I didn't take those classes. I didn't take my own advice back then. But
you're really good at it. You're really good at it.
Thank you very much. But I just feel like if that's something that a person knows that they want to do, they definitely should look into the best courses for that, and make sure you really hone that skill and master that skill. It's everybody, people can write, but not everybody can write creatively. I would say,
Right.
I think it's a gift. It's something that's within you, and if you recognize that gift and you know that you have it, you owe it to yourself to take whatever courses that you have to do to strengthen that. That's just my advice right there. I mean, I didn't realize it till later on. I'm doing it now. I mean, I'm happy, but I didn't know it then. So it's important because, like I said, everybody can't do it. It's a talent.
Right.
It is.
Everybody,
It's a gift.
it is. It really is a gift. And so with these courses that they should be looking at, well, let's back up. So everybody's in the house, confined, and now would be a great time for them to actually explore their creative writing juices and start writing.
Yes.
You know, I'm of the belief that everybody has a book or a poem or something in them that they can get out.
Mm-hmm.
So now would be a great time for them to kind of explore those energies and maybe write something.
Yeah.
You talk about vanity publishers. So let's talk about the vanity publishers a little bit, because I know a lot of people want to write books, but they see all these vanity publishers and they become discouraged because they look at the expense attached to it, and that's completely a turnoff. So let's talk about the vanity publishers and what your experience was.
Okay, so I actually have never signed with a vanity publisher. I've seen people who have, but I didn't because, like I said, I researched a lot before I even decided to publish this book. A vanity publisher is basically, and you have to look, I don't have any names off the top of my head because, like I said, I haven't had experience with them, but I know of them. They're basically the type of publisher, they'll say, hey, give me your book. They won't edit it or anything. Give me a book. You'll pay us this amount of money, a couple $1,000s. We'll load your book to Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It'll be in stores and blah, blah, blah. So you pay out this money. They, a lot of times, own the cover and things like that. And they end up charging you a lot of money to even get a copy, get your own author copies of your book. They're charging you way more than you would pay if you did it yourself. And then in order to recoup the money that you put out, you have to charge, because you get the royalty and stuff from them. You have to charge up your book a lot. And to me, some people like it because they're not tech savvy. They don't want to do the work, and that's fine. I'm not knocking that. I don't mind putting the work in to do that, but some people don't want, they're not, like I said, they're not tech savvy. They don't want to format, they don't want to load it, and that's cool. So they go that route. But I think in the end, you might end up wasting a lot of money. I say, if you're going to do self-publishing, if you can, take the time and learn how to do it and load it yourself. I load my books directly to Kindle, KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. I load my books directly to there. I load my books to Ingram Spark is another distributor that you load your books to. Now that you have to pay. That is $49 a title, which isn't bad compared to what you can pay other places. But it's worth it because that gets your books in the Barnes & Noble system and the Walmart system and Target system. Amazon, if you do with them, it's to Amazon site in the Kindle. And you have to watch when these people say, I can get your books in stores.
Right.
They can load your book to the same distributor that I load my book to, and it gets it on the website. Yes. But that doesn't mean it's going to get it in the store. Barnes & Noble has to want your book in their store, and that's very hard to get into, especially being an independent author. So watching people say, I can get you in the stores. No, they can get you on their site. You can I'm in Walmart sites. I'm in Target sites. I'm in Barnes & Noble sites and Books A Million sites. I'm not in the stores. There's a difference. So it's just a lot. It's a lot you have to, kind of learn or whatever. But that's basically what vanity publishers do. I'm not saying that there's some legit publishers like that. I still call them vanity publishers, but there are also publishers out there that are not legit. I remember back in probably my 20s when I initially thought I was going to publish, I've reached out to one And I didn't go with it because it just seemed really shifty and shifty. And I actually looked them up on the Better Business Bureau because I don't play about my time or my money or my books. So, and I was like, nah, we're not doing that. But that, I think, I forgot the name of that one, but that was like a scam kind of thing. So, yeah, I would just say be aware of that stuff if you're going to write. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't try. If you feel like you want to go for a publisher, by all means, get your query letters together and then look for agents and look for publishers. Just research the publishers. If you're going for smaller publishers, research those and see what, are they going to advertise for you? Are they going to pay for your editing? Are you going to watch your rights? Watch publishing rights, and so just keep all that in mind when you're searching. But I'm not knocking. I mean, if you get a publisher to help you out, I say go for it. But for self-publishing, I'm good with that.
Well, one of the myths is that if you self-publish, and then we have someone else who said, I know parents who don't think there's any money in it, so they deter the kids from creative writing, but it is a gift, and it actually is a gift.
Yes.
But one of the things in self-publishing, I think, because of the fact that you could self-publish, a lot of years ago, people used to frown at self-publishers because they came with substandard materials. You'll find a lot of typos, book covers look a hot mess. And now you really can't tell the difference because you have a new standard in publishing where these people are like, I don't have to be with Random House, or I don't have to be with, Dafina or whatever. My books look just as good. So the consumer is not going to know the difference. And I think that's excellent that these resources are available. But so you talked about editing. So let's get into writing and editing. So students write, but one of the things that students fail to do a lot of the times is proofread their work.
Yes.
So editing and proofreading is very, very important in the writing process. And so what has been your experience with editors and with proofreaders and people in that space?
Well, first of all, having a separate editor that's not yourself is very important. Like for me, I can write, but all the technical stuff, like you don't want to see my manuscript before it goes. I have so many commas, and I just write. So for me, editing is not for me. I needed to have somebody else to do that for me. And I think anybody should, because even no matter how good you are, if you read your stuff over and over and over again, your mind and your eye knows what to look for. So you're going to miss things. You need that other set of eyes that's going to catch things for you. I've only worked with 2 editors. My very first editor, which I had for book 1, she helped me really my writing style was a lot different then. I learned how to, and my writing style has grown over the years, but she helped me kind of hone it, not perfect it, but change it, develop it better. So she helped me with that. And I worked with her for the first book, and then I had the editor that I have now proof that book, because I only worked for her for that one book. So the editor I have now has been working with me through the proof of book 1 all the way through book 8. She does, she helps me with the structure. When I do line edits, and then she does the proof. So she does the structure, she corrects the structure and helps me, tame the structure of my writing. And then once she does that, she sends it back to me, and then I make my changes and read it over twice, and then I send it back to her and she proofs it. But that still, at the end of the day, is my work. So yes, I have a editor, and then I have, have doing the proofreading. But at the end of the day, I still go over my work too, because it's my work. And I think that it's my work, and it's everybody can miss something. Doesn't matter how good you are. Again, the human eye is flawed. The mind sees things, and when you read it 10,000 times, you're going to miss an A. And then you go back 2 weeks later, it's how did I miss that A? Your mind sees the A there, even though it's not there. So I think it's important not only to have somebody else edit your work. Editing is very important, especially if you're going to publish. Because and I'm not saying that you won't find an error. You find an error in any book, a small error. The most popular books, I found little errors, but it happens, it's whatever. But it's still important to go over your own work at the end of the day too, because it is your work. And then if somebody comes back to you and says, hey, this at the end of the day is yours, you can't say, well, my editor, no, it's your name, it's your work. So
and it's tied to you. It's forever tied to you. So.
It's still tied to me. No, somebody can say, "Hey, I found this wrong. Fine, I'll go back and fix it. Thank you. I go back and fix it and reload it. You know." It's just,
awesome. So journaling, you think journaling is important for students in order to get their thoughts out? A lot of students need journal prompts or journals to kind of get their thoughts across because they don't know how to process until someone asks a question, and then they're able to process it and answer it.
I think I think so. Journaling definitely helped for me. I didn't have any prompts of mine, but I have a lot of stuff going on in here. So I just always just wrote things down. But I think especially nowadays where sometimes people they feel like they can't talk to other people. Or they feel like, what I have to say or nobody's going to listen, or what I have to say is not important. They don't want to hear my whine. They don't want to hear my noise. So in that case, and that's not necessarily true, but in the mind, you may think that. So I think that journaling and writing down your thoughts and your feelings, even if it's a 2 lines or a poem or however you choose to express yourself and get your feelings out, I think that it's important. When you keep things bottled up, it tends to mess with you over time. And I just feel like even if you can't talk, you can talk on paper. You can talk on paper. You can cry on paper, and then go back and read it. And then sometimes you can go back and read it and evaluate yourself or show it to somebody else, and things like that. I had somebody who came to me about something. I think they asked me something, and they were writing. I said, well, write it down. Write down what you're feeling, and then if you feel like you can't talk to somebody, show them what you wrote. It's a way to get out your frustration, a way to get out what you're feeling, and I think it's definitely important, especially nowadays when people feel like they can't really say what's on their mind. Like I said, I'm not a talkative person. I'm not a sherry feelings kind of person. But my paper knows what I feel. My pen bleeds. My pen cries.
Nowadays people, and this happens in college where you trust somebody and it doesn't work.
Get me started on that.
As adults, you run into situations where people who you trusted or people who you thought you could speak to, you hear from this one that this one said that, just the horror stories that you hear is just absolutely crazy. And so that's a good way for a student to kind of process their feelings. Write it down and tear it up if you have to, but write it down and then read what you wrote and then be able to process it in that manner. So I think that's a great part of advice to give them.
Thank you. I actually did that myself, and I won't go into much detail, but I had an incident in college where I felt, kind of betrayed by people I thought, or a person I thought was my friend, and I just I wrote a poem about it. I wrote a poem about said people, and I read the poem for a speech class I had, and that was like, and I still have that poem to this day. But it was
I said quick reminder.
Oh yeah. So, but yeah. So that was a way for me to cope with that, because I feel like I'm not going to sit there and talk. I'm not going to have a buddy conversation with you because I don't like you like that anymore. So I'm going to write down how you make me feel in a form of a poem, and that's how I channeled my feelings for that thing. And I've always done that.
Yeah. That's funny, but very, very true. So let's talk about let's go all the way back and let's start talking about the series. You gave us a little bit of the series, but I am holding the latest. Harry Potter style, guys. Potter style. And that just means that, and to be perfectly honest, the books get thicker and thicker and thicker.
Yes.
But full of information. So let's talk about your characters. Tell us about Jason and Chastity and Alex, Syndra, and Emily, Mark, David, and Josh.
Okay, excuse me with all the names. So the characters, I have 5 main females and 4 guys who are basically, they're like the co-stars to the girls, but the girls are the main characters. So we have Chastity, Syndra, Malaysia, Alex, and Emily.
I forgot Malaysia. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh, girl, you know
I
she's
shouldn't
in
have
that.
forgot her.
No, she's she she probably like the second popular one out of all of them.
Yeah,
Cassidy's number one. So each girl has come from a different upbringing, different background, and in book one you get to meet the characters, and I like to call this the extreme version of themselves. When you meet people for the first time, you get their representative, I like to say, and you get how their persona and how they come off, how you perceive them. But each girl has a backstory and the reason why they act the way they do. One of the most popular characters, at least my readers have told me, is Chastity. Chastity is she's a wealthy young lady. She's very pretty. She's very, I would say, people who kind of see her, they kind of envy what she has. But Chastity's very angry. And her upbringing is the reason why she's angry. I won't go into any details because I don't want to give away any spoilers. You have to read the books. But she's very angry, and her, like I said, her upbringing is the cause of that. And so you meet her in book one, the first chapter, the first scene with her, she's arguing with her mother. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, oh my God, I would never speak to my mother. But there's a reason why. There's a reason why she's so angry. There's a reason why she's so harsh. And yeah, people from the outside looking in, you think she has everything. She has money. She has a car. She has, good looks and this and that. But she's very hurt. She's very hurt. And as the books go on, you start to peel back the layers of her, and you start to see why she is the way she is. And so that's number one. Malaysia, who's another fan favorite. She is very loud, and she's very silly. She's very crazy, and she's outgoing. She's an attention seeker, and she dresses in a manner and she acts in a way that gets her attention. Malaysia is one of 7 girls. She's the middle child, so she's always looking for attention. But Malaysia, as the series goes on, she has to realize that not all attention is good attention, and what you put out is what you attract, and that may not be the best thing. And so she also has something that she's hiding by, being loud and outgoing and dressing, and revealing. That's her wall that she has up to hide things that she's been dealing with, things that's her truth. So Malaysia's she's very comical, but she has a lot of layers to her as well, which begin to be peeled back, and she ends up in situations that most people would not want to be in, but it's reality. So that happens within this series. And we have Miss Syndra. Miss Syndra starts out being probably the less complicated of the group. She's very prim and proper. She's the only girl. She's the youngest child of her parents. Her mother's very girly. She's raised like a little princess, little girly girl. Has, wears little updos, wears little sophisticated clothing, and she's, very, prim and proper and snooty sometimes. And, but Syndra also has, she's usually the neutral voice within the group. But Syndra also has a side to her that shows when she's, in certain situations. She has a different side to her that sometimes doesn't come off the best, which comes off later in the series. I won't go into the detail. But she has her run-ins with different situations and things too that she has to deal with. And she has to realize that it's okay to not be perfect all the time. So she learns that throughout the series as well. But then we have Miss Alex. Miss Alex is the oldest girl and the mother of the group, and the nosy one of the group, who wants everybody to get along. I want all my friends to get along. And, you guys are fighting. You have to talk and sort this out right now. You have to talk about this right now. You have to settle this right now. And everybody's like, get out my face, get out my business. Let me handle this my way. But Alex thinks that she's right. She thinks that her way is right. She's the oldest one. She's, she wants everybody to be cool and fine. But Alex has her own things she has to deal with. And then Alex realizes that maybe people have a point. You're not ready to deal with things until you're ready to deal with them. And then when you deal with them, you deal with them in your own way. She starts to deal with things in book 1 with a boyfriend that she left behind in high school, and she starts to realize, why people get so upset with her when she sticks her nose in, other people's business. So she has a lot of stuff for her too that goes on throughout the series as well. It gets her in a lot of arguments with the girls because they don't need another mother. And then we have Miss Emily, who is the youngest child of her parents and the most sheltered girl. And she starts off very sheltered. She's very quiet. She's very, weak, I would say. Very weak. And she's a mommy's girl, and she's just been babied. And her mother like keeps her under her thumb. It's crazy, actually. But Emily goes through things because of how she's not handling the stress with her mother. Like she's in, like I said, I won't go into details because I don't want to give away anything, but she deals with things in her own way that's not necessarily the best way. Emily has to find her voice and her strength. And, again, that's something that gets peeled back throughout the series. So, and then we have the guys, like I said, they're the co-stars up to the girls. We have Mark, who's very loud and a prankster and things like that. He provides a lot of the comical relief along with Malaysia in this series, but he also has a side to him too that comes off that depending on the situation, he can be serious, but he has to learn how not to act and how to stop being childish sometimes. We have Jason, who, he initially starts off kind of jerkish a little bit, maybe a little teeny bit, but Jason's a good guy, and he's, again, I don't want to give away who he was up with, but I'm not. Then we have Josh and David, and they, those are two other guys. They both have their own things that they deal with throughout the series as well. So this is a very diverse group of young Black teenagers going into adulthood, and they meet, and they don't necessarily, everybody doesn't necessarily get along at first, but through their friendships and the things that they deal with, they start to learn about themselves and learn who they are as people and change. And I've been happy to be able to write their, growth and everything in the series. And sometimes they progress and some people regress a little bit in the series as it goes on. But at the end of the day, they're growing, and this is college and this is a whole new experience. So they're learning things for the first time. So the series provides a lot of entertainment. I like to think. It makes you think, and sometimes it could draw out feelings in yourself. If you identify with any of these characters, it could draw out feelings within yourself. You could look at yourself and say, well, maybe the way I'm handling this issue is not necessarily the best, or maybe I could do a little bit better, things like that. So, but also I like to think that it provides a lot of fun times too. So they're fun reads, but they're good reads, and they're going to be on TV one day. I'm speaking that to existence.
Exactly. Yes, we're praying for the option for you. The option.
Yes.
So this was so enlightening, and I want our Freshman Funbox family to know that this is an excellent series.
Thank you.
And because of that, we are giving away 5 copies of book 1. So if you have a deserving college student or a high school graduate that you want to bless or we can bless, send us an email to hi@freshmanfunbox.com and tell us why. And we're just giving out 5 books.
Yes.
That's what the class for 2020. So how can everybody get in touch with you?
Yes, so I am on Facebook. My page is at JB Vample. I am on Instagram, and my handle is at JB Vample. I'm also on Twitter. I'm not on there too much. I got to get a little more active on that, but my handle is at JB Vample. I'm also on Snapchat. I haven't used that in a minute. At JB Vample. I have a website, which is jbvample.com. I also have a YouTube channel. The channel is JB Vample. On the YouTube channel right now, I have some book discussion videos with myself and two of my test readers. Don't watch those unless you read the books first, because it's heavy spoilers in those videos. But I'm very easy to find. I always tell my readers that you can. If you want to talk about the book, if you want to vent about the book, if you want to ask me something, no, don't ask me nothing about future books. But I'm not going to give spoilers. But, if you want to express to me your favorite character and tell me how much you enjoyed or whatever, my inbox is open. My email is open. My email is jbvample@yahoo.com. I'm very open to hear from my readers. I love to hear from my readers, actually. So I'm easy to find.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of our brand. Thank you so much for supporting our brand. We love support, entrepreneurs and people who are actually doing great things, but we also just love our supporters, and you have been like a great supporter of the Freshman Funbox brand. And I'm just so happy to know you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to know you too. You have a great brand, so trust me, I'm happy to support you.
Well, thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Hi@freshmanfunbox.com to donate a book to somebody, to bless somebody with the book. And you can get JB Vample at jbvample.com or at JB Vample on all social media platforms.
Yes.
And until our next live chat series, we'll see you then. Thank you so much and good night.
Thank you. Good night.